Good morning, Barry and Barbara.
Morning, Rav. Morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Okay, so what I want to do this morning is I want to look at strange mitzvah. It's strange just because we know about it, but it's trying to understand. It's one of those things that we call the chukim, and that is the mitzvah of shatnez. And we're just going to look at it just very, very briefly. The Torah says, "Lo tilbash shatnez, tzemer ufishtim yachdav," that you shouldn't wear shatnez. So shatnez is a word. It's not clear exactly what that word means, but it seems to be some type of word that implies a combination. And then the Torah says, and what should it not combine with? Tzemer ufishtim. Tzemer is wool, fishtim is linen, yachdav together. So that's the basics of the mitzvah. Rashi says shatnez is lashon eruv, a combination. Okay, and the combination means that it's the way he explains it, that it's in the actual creation of the cloth, that the mixture of the different materials happens in the cloth itself. So what's so wrong with this concept of tzemer ufishtim? Why is it such a thing that we have to have a mitzvah around it? And that's not clear, because we do understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can tell us whatever he wants, but we'd like to have some manner of understanding what it would mean. Now, firstly, I saw from one of the commentaries, he brings down, explains that it's only the wool of sheep that he's talking about. It's not the wool of a camel or the wool of a llama or anything like that. It's only the wool of a sheep. So it's the wool of the sheep and pishtim, which is flax, which is something that are prohibited. And so therefore we have to try and understand why dafka, those materials. The Chizkuni says, tzemer ufishtim yachdav. Why? Lefisha ba'a takala al yedei shneim. That because takala means like the downfall, happened because of the two of these things. Nesru liyot b'bas achas. Therefore, they're not allowed to come together. There's something about those two coming together and clashing in some way that causes great damage to the world. And what is that? He says very simple. Hevel brought from the Bechorot, from the firstborn of his sheep, and Kain avi mizerapishta. And Kain, according to the way the Midrash explains that, when it says that Kain brought of his fruits, what he brought actually the lowest level of fruit that he could, which is flax, and that's what he brings. Hevel brings the tzon, the sheep, and now because what happens out of that is the jealousy of Kain towards Hevel, which leads him ultimately to kill his brother. So therefore, that is the reason why we can't mix them together. And we need to try and understand a little bit more. We'll get there. Carries on the Chizkuni davar acher. Lefi shemishneim bigdei kahuna hisiram lelav sham b'chol. Says, you know why else? Because the Kohen Gadol, in his begadim, in his clothes, in all those beautiful garments that he wears, there is a mixture of wool and linen. And since there is a mixture of wool and linen in the begadim of the Kohen Gadol, so therefore it's inappropriate for us to be able to wear that as well. Only we're only able to leave to wear that when the Kohen Gadol is doing his avodah. And that's why there is only the problem of the nagaim, that when you get to tzarat from speaking lashon hora and all the other things that tzarat comes from, it only vests in beged tzemer and beged fishtim, only in wool and in linen. That there is a problem in bringing them together. So therefore, the Torah specifies tzemer and fishtim are wool and linen. But let's try and understand. We can understand this Kohen Gadol thing to a degree. You're in the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and in the service of Hashem. It's such on a high level, so that we can't mix. But what's this business about Kain and Hevel? Why is Kain and Hevel coming up? Not only that, but we also have this. It's a clash that comes also in Bereshit. There's another clash, and that other clash is also connected with the Midrash connected with Shatnez. And what's that clash? That clash is HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates the world. We daven every morning, Yotzera Ma'orot, Hashem creates the world, and in the world he creates these two massive luminaries. One is the moon and the one is the sun. And Hashem looks to them, and there's this whole discussion about who is in the Midrash, how the one is greater than the other. I'm greater than you, you're greater than me. And Hashem eventually minimizes the size of the moon, the way the Midrash presents it, in order that there won't be two kings of the heavens, so to speak, that are going to start ruling the heavens, obviously outside of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And there seems to be this thing that when you have two equal partners in this way, that there's going to be some type of clash. So where is the equality of Tzemer and Pishtim? The one is wool and the other one is linen. Why is there some type of equality here? So I saw from the Moshe and the Ketava Kabbalah, they all go through different conversations around the same thing, but it's all around this Cain and Hevel. So they explain as follows, that when Cain brought his pishtan, he brought his flax, what he understood, what he wanted to present, the reason why, what is he bringing? Whenever you bring a korban, you're trying to come closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And his feeling was that the human being is just another creation, just like everything else that Hashem created. And therefore, even if you bring it from the lowest of the vegetation, which is flax, in traditionally, even if you bring it, it's still representing the human being, which is obviously problematic, because when you bring just a small little flax as a korban, what it really means is that you're not showing the potential of what the human being can be. Because when you bring a lamb, which is what Cain brings, he's showing that you start small and you get bigger, and you can grow into something different, and you're not exactly the same as you were when you cut off the life force of the flax. So you cut off the life force of the flax, it's nothing else. But when you shech the sheep, you're still able to benefit from it. And so there's so much going on between the sheep and the flax. And so therefore, and that's what causes the fight, is that their fight between Cain and Hevel is not just simply a jealousy of who brought a better korban, but really of what is the potential of the human being. And that's why Cain becomes this person that runs around killing people, and Cain and Hevel is killed, and the next brother, Shed, he becomes the person who takes the Masorah of Hevel and takes it forward and becomes the father of all the people in the world, to really to fill the world with something which is good, something which is goodness, and something which recognizes the fact that we have to that we have to grow. We can't, that we're represented by something which is alive, not by something that you've cut off from its life force in the same way as the flax. What is interesting is that a number of the Hasidic commentaries connect the concept of flax to, which is pishtan, to what was going on in Mitzrayim during the time of the famine, and that when Yaakov came down, it says that there was originally Mitzrayim was the only place which had food for everybody to bring in. There was no food for them to get from Canaan, so they came to Mitzrayim. But then Mitzrayim, the way it seems to play itself out, also realized that they had a commodity of flax, and so they replaced their grain, some of their grain, with flax, because there was a certain level of being able to get the commodity out of it. There was a much better commodity. Now we know that that shepherds in Mitzrayim were seen as a very lowly profession. They weren't very well liked. It wasn't very nice. That's why they were happy to put them in Goshen, because it was separate from everybody else. So the shepherds are the ones that look after the tzemer, and the Mitzrim are now focusing on the commodity of pishtan, of flax. And so therefore what comes out is that there's something underneath. I don't really understand it properly. I just wanted to point it out, that there's something in the underlying the clash between tzemer and pishtan. Tzemer representing Am Yisrael, we are the sheep, we are the ones who are much more compassionate, and whereas pishtim is a very simple commodity. It's driven by money, it's driven by nothing else. And so these two are clashing together. And so therefore the Torah says, Lord till bashatnes, don't bring them together. There's a history of these things that causes takala, that causes negativity, and the breakdown of society. The first one is the breakdown of society during the period of Cain and Hevel, which led ultimately to murder. And the other one is this breakdown of society, creating an enormous level of enslavement by the Mitzrim, who are the Pishtim, because that's all about the money, versus the Tzemer, which is the wool, which is the lamb, which is a much more a passive animal, let's say, which in a way we're compared to. And that's why on all the korbanot, especially over Yom Tov, we're always bringing lambs, because the lambs represent us in this in a special way, that we are able to be in a way humble, like the lamb. Not sure, that's how they explain it. And whereas Pishtim is this flax, and it's all about the money, and the money becomes a thing of great gaiva, of arrogance, versus the humility of the tzemer. So just a few ideas to look into and to think about. There's lots of halachas about shatnez, but we're not going to go into those now. Just wanted to give you a little bit of a background.